Truth Unveiled here, and today I have a very critical report to share with you. We're going to be talking about the recent events that have been going on in China and letting you know the bigger agenda once again in case you are not aware of this. Because meanwhile, while they're talking about the headlines when it comes to these so-called award shows and March Madness and all this fun stuff, and yeah, America is reopening again and all of these fun, wonderful things. And also when it comes to more serious topics with the war in Russia and Ukraine, and also everything that's happening. Meanwhile, this was last week, 37 million people in China were under a COVID lockdown. Now, I don't know if you remember, but we were one of the first ones to actually report on COVID back in January of 2020 when it hit China back in 2019 before it came to America in 2020 a few months later. So now pay careful attention because again, isn't it interesting that whatever goes on in China and over around the world, it soon makes its way back to America. Just pay careful attention. I pray your eyes are open because it says here tens of millions of people are living under lockdown in China as the country battles its worst COVID-19 outbreak since the early days of the pandemic, as they call it, because they're going to keep pushing that narrative. This outbreak has spread far faster than previous waves of less infectious variants, according to them. But what's really causing these potential variants? Could it be the you-know-what? It says here, the number may sound low compared to other countries, but it is alarmingly high for a nation that has attempted to stamp out outbreaks and chains of transmission with the strict zero COVID policy throughout what they call a pandemic. Because yes, 5,100, that is a large number for a population of over 1 billion people. However, what I mostly want to talk about in this video has to do with the actual lockdowns and the actual restrictions that were in place, because some of them have been lifted in some of these places, but it's important that we go over this. It said that as of last week, there were 5 cities collectively home to more than 37 million residents. That's like what? More than a tenth of America are now under varying levels of lockdown. Residents in these places right here, I'm not going to try to pronounce them because I might butcher their names, are banned from leaving their neighborhoods except for essential workers and emergency services. Did you hear that? Let me repeat that. So again, once upon a time, they can't even leave their homes for no reason whatsoever. And they're only allowed to send one person to buy groceries every 2 to 3 days. That sounds way worse than the lockdowns that were in place 2 years ago. But then it says the 5th city went a step further and prohibiting all residents from leaving their homes except for emergency reasons. Don't you see how that is the building blocks and stages of what? Martial law, more testing. And not only that, but according to a report from The Guardian as of this week, actually, this says right here that one of the cities has barred residents from leaving without a 48-hour negative test result and put all housing compounds under closed management. Don't you see what that's potentially leading up to? Because when they soon enough eventually bring that over here to America and other places, what are they going to do? They're going to tell you that you cannot leave your house unless you have been you-know-what, unless you have the you-know-what, unless you have taken that test, which could contain the you-know-what and other things. So folks, I'm telling you that this is getting really serious indeed. But it says here that China has locked down an industrial city of 9 million people overnight and reported more than 4,000 virus cases. Now, when it says overnight, that's something else to look at because as we've talked about on this network, what does that have to do with? Martial law once again, and the order was to lock down as of late Monday, as of this week. Now, I know I'm skimming fast through these reports. I will link them in the description box below, but this is another one from Al Jazeera that says millions in China's northeast placed under another lockdown, that this city will lock down some 4.5 million people to do what they say, help curb the spread of the outbreak. But what's really the cause of all of this? So not only do we see it with that, but we see this happening with what? Targeted lockdowns, mass testing, and once again, travel restrictions. Now, it's interesting how in these places, residents are lining up for testing sites all over the place because, again, they've now basically made it a requirement this time. It seems like they're doing it in waves. And it seems like they're doing it strategically make everyone think in America and distract everyone in America with, oh yeah, everything's opening back up, everything's back to normal, but not realizing there's something deeper going on here, as you're now seeing. Now, it's interesting how in this town right here, this is a different one from the one that was quoted. It says restrictions are being eased in the southern tech hub of it because it would lock down 17.5 million residents a week ago. Now, they're saying public transport will soon enough resume alongside some administrative and business activities. However, non essential businesses are still going to remain closed, and the business district right here is still under strict measures too. Now, the NPR also reported on the exact same thing that was happening last week, now going on 2 weeks. But as you can see, look at how the restrictions are getting more and more restricting. At first, it wasn't as bad, but now to undergo the tests, I'm telling you folks, what is this looking like? This is looking like a what? Controlled, draconian, apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic type of scenery right now. Because it says here that this entire province was under lockdown, as according to them, cases started to rise. But again, just pay careful attention to the language, pay careful attention to the timing, pay careful attention to how this is 2 years after the initial lockdowns, and pay careful attention in America specifically, how again, like we've talked about previously back in 2020, how they are allowing everything to open back up and how they are allowing the mainstream public to be what? Brainwashed, and not only that, but distracted with these streaming services and all of these streaming places and platforms. Again, trying to keep people distracted for as long as possible, for as much as possible, so that they do not see what is about to take place and what is about to come. Please seek YAHUAH and his true son YAHUSHA so that you will be protected at all times. This is Truth Unveiled here saying, as always, Shalom.